Thank you, and may I also apologize to those whom at any moment I have my back to. I thank you very much for your patience. I'll explain in a minute why I'm late and kept you waiting. But first of all, let me thank Deval for his extraordinary leadership and good counsel in the governor's office on education issues, and a whole host of others for that matter. Just a wise man and great member of our team. Mr. Mayor, thank you and all of your team for a wonderful and always warm welcome to Quincy. We are neighbors. I live next door, as you know. So this is close to home for me in a lot of ways. One thing Dana got wrong when he said you're going to ask questions and I'm going to give you answers. That is not why we are here. I'm going to try to outline for you a future for education over the next 10 years or so. And I want you to comment on it. I want you to give us your ideas. I want you to help shape it. And then at the end of this, I'm going to ask you to do some things, to commit to how we implement this vision and make it real. We have done some wonderful things in education reform over the last 14 years. Those of you who've been involved in this at the ground or as parents over the last 14 years will know that we took a big step starting in, I think it was 1993. Was it 1993? To try to bring Massachusetts up to competitive levels all across the Commonwealth. And we have some things to show for that. You may have noticed that we were rated first in the nation on most of the measures of the national, what's it called, the national NAEP scores. I knew there was an acronym that goes with it. But I'm going to tell you why I think that isn't enough. 1 out of 5 of the kids who started in last year's graduating class didn't finish in last year's graduating class. 58%, I think it is, of Hispanic kids. 64% of African American kids in the Commonwealth do not graduate in 4 years. Meaning big percentages do not on time. The reason I'm late is because I went by the Odom's house in Dorchester. You know who they are? Their 13-year-old boy was killed last week. 13 years old. The youngest of 5 children. And there's a boy and a family trying to do everything they can to improve themselves and make a better way for their kids. But unless we have longer school days and after school and enrichment programs, then kids like that are going to find themselves in harm's way more than any of us should be satisfied with. The mayor and the school committee here do everything they can. But in a whole lot of places, and I'm not sure whether it isn't also true here, kids are paying fees to play on the football team or to extra fees to ride the bus. We have, what'd you say?
No bus.
No bus. All right. If there is a bus, then. We have a whole host of ways in which the pressure on the property tax is all out of proportion to what folks on fixed income or limited income can pay, and it is still not enough to pay for the education we all say we are committed to. And why do we say we are committed to it? You know, I love being introduced as the education governor, and I'm sorry to be so grim, but I'm affected by where I just was. But every candidate and every governor and every political person you ever meet says that they believe in public education. Who wouldn't? It transformed my life. I've seen that. I had an extraordinary experience this year when our youngest child graduated from high school. 18 years old. And I thought to myself, what a difference in her life experience to that point compared to mine at that point. I grew up in a neighborhood like the Odom's neighborhood. broken in a lot of ways, that neighborhood was, but I had great education. My daughter, very different experience from mine growing up. I shared a room with my mother and my sister and my grandparents and a set of bunk beds. So you go from the top bunk to the bottom bunk to the floor every third night on the floor. My daughter's had her own room all of her life. By the time she got to high school, and when I got to high school at Milton Academy through a wonderful program, it was like a different planet for me. By the time she got to high school, she had traveled on 3 continents, knew how to use and pronounce a concierge, and had shaken hands with the President of the United States in the White House. How does that happen in one generation? Education is how that happens. Education.